What is truly special about both of these executives is their leadership and their humanity. Lars is the founder of Amplify, which is a consultancy, is also the host of the 21st Century HR podcast and now live streaming daily on LinkedIn Live, and started the crowdsourced coronavirus resources document, which we'll include in the chat for you in case you haven't seen it. It does include great information around return to work frameworks as well. Claude is the Chief Heart Officer of VaynerMedia, a privately held media company. She unlocks employees' potential by forging human-to-human connection. She really does lead with her heart.
Hey, everyone. I'm Lars Schmidt. I'm the founder of Amplify. Appreciate you spending some time with us here today. I think that as we get into the conversation here, I want to quickly just thank James for sharing and being so vulnerable with his own story. I think that moved all of us. And I know that he's been a vocal proponent of mental health. And I know it's difficult to share stories like that. So I just want to recognize that and thank him for the courage to do so. So excited to welcome Claude Silver to the show. And Claude, just to open up, let's just kind of start things with this. Like, how are you doing right now? How is your world? Where are you? Let's just kind of start there.
All right, cool. Well, it's great to see you. Thank you. I'm in the Poconos, which is someplace in Pennsylvania. We left New York City about 7 weeks ago. I'm good. I mean, I'm juggling an 18-month-old and a full-time, full-on job. And I have had my own resistance to this isolation, which I've had to really watch myself go up and down and up and down. And I think I'm finally at a place of acceptance. So I've been saying the Serenity Prayer a lot. But I'm incredibly blessed. We're all healthy, knock on wood. And I am getting to literally watch my little girl grow.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for those of us that are going through this as parents, it's a different experience in a lot of ways. Some magical and exciting, some stressful and difficult. And so I think what's so interesting about this whole situation with everybody being, for those of us that have the privilege to be sheltering in place, is everybody's going through this in their own way, based on their own circumstances. It's such an individual thing that we're all experiencing in this. Like we're all in it together, and like that, it's a hashtag. It's a part of conversation. I think it's real, but there's also layers of individual interpretation of the events as they unfold. And so, for you, I guess a question would be, you're in a really interesting position where, as a Chief Heart Officer, and for those of you that aren't familiar with that title, Claude runs all of HR for VaynerMedia, has a variety of elements that roll at her responsibility as a Chief Heart Officer. But really, you're dealing with all of those employees who are all going through those individual interpretation of the events. So I want to get into how you're handling your own, mental health and well-being. But first, how are you, as a people leader, how are you kind of managing and supporting and kind of connecting and being empathetic with the experience of all your employees that are going through this?
Yeah, thanks for the question. The actual answer is I'm not doing anything differently. I just happen to be doing it on screen. Yeah. So the difference is the vibe I'm getting is this connection that you and I have where we're looking at each other's eyes. I'm not able to feel the air in which we're both sharing necessarily. But my days when I'm in an office are spent with people, whether or not it's groups of people or one-on-ones. And I'm doing the same exact thing now with Zoom or with Hangouts. I'm also spending a lot of time on Slack, making sure that I'm reaching out to people and we're doing some chats and we're doing some fun polls and things like that. Spending a lot of time in leadership conversations right now, which then I can transparently communicate whatever that is through the line. So I'm still full court pressing, I think is what you'd say if you were a basketball player. It's just very different. And I will say, because of technology, the scale happens much quicker.
Yeah. One of the things I've heard the analogy probably dozens of times in the last 2 months about putting on your own oxygen mask before others. And I think as a people executive, your job is incredibly difficult in the best of times, right? And incredibly emotionally taxing, right? You're dealing with people, you're dealing with all the life circumstances that your employees have, and you're affected by that. I think that and I know you have a huge heart. I think you probably connect to those emotions even more than some people. So for you, how do you take care of yourself? You kind of shared at the beginning of this that you're on your own kind of up and down journey, as I know we all are. But how, as for you yourself, like how do you ensure that you're listening to yourself and taking care of your own well-being as you're kind of guiding hundreds of employees through this experience?
That is the $10 million question, because as a caretaker and an obliger, I really have to work on that. I mean, I really have to work on taking time out, making sure I'm stretching, making sure I'm getting enough sleep, making sure I'm, taking a walk. The gift of it all is I have a little kid. I have a little baby who needs activity and she needs to be played with. So I'm watching and literally I'm living through her eyes. I mean, you can basically see the finger painting we did right behind me there. The drawings, the Legos, whatever it is. So I will say that's a really great way for me to deflate my balloon at the end of the day or throughout the day. Doesn't mean that it's easy all the time, because I'm also juggling everything I need to juggle. But being in the outdoors is something that definitely has filled me a lot. And I was resistant to leaving the city also. So, as a person I've spent a lot of time studying myself and watching myself internally. It's, I need to keep myself very honest. And so about 3 weeks ago, I made the commitment to meditate every night, 15 minutes. And I've been doing a gratitude journal now for quite some time, which I find is extremely helpful for me.
Yeah. One of the things you shared recently, I believe at an event yesterday, talking about resilience as a muscle. And I think, you and I have the benefit of having a relationship. We've had many conversations. We've had a podcast. And so we're kind of familiar with our own stories and some of the challenges and difficulties that we've had to overcome in our own lives. And so I'm curious, like, having been in a position in your life where you've had to tap into that and strengthen that resiliency muscle, how are you leaning on that now? And are there tips, or there recommendations or suggestions you might have for viewers that they can do to kind of work on developing their own resiliency?
Yeah, I love the question. And of course, I have some suggestions and things that work for Claude Silver, and hopefully, people take the gift and leave the rest, as I like to say. But I think the biggest thing I'm going to say is do your best not to fight it, not to fight the muscle. It's just like when you go to the gym. And by the way, we all fight putting on the gym clothes, and that's the hardest part. And then we get to the gym and we feel so much better after we worked out. I think if you can think of the idea of the exercise of building resistance and self-awareness and compassion with yourself, if you can build those muscles, I think you will find that you come out of whatever circumstance you're in this COVID world calmer. And the real gift of being calm is it reduces your cortisol levels, and so your anxiety goes down. And that's something that I think we all could use a little bit more of, our anxiety going down. So again, the way I really work on resistance is I face it. I face it in a little bit different of a way than I used to when I was much younger, which was, I can take it, I can take it, I can take it. More on Claude's shoulders, more on Claude's shoulders. Well, the shoulders break at a certain point. So now I just have to watch my temperature and know when to say when, and know when I'm capping out. And so that's why I continue to say, self-awareness, knowing yourself, knowing what you need. If you don't know what you need, that's also okay. That's absolutely okay. Just ask for support. You're not alone. And that's the thing, where we might feel isolated. We actually are not alone. It's just an expansion of the thought.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you raised that last point as well. I mean, for me, that was last week I had one of those moments where, just the weight of it became so much. And I realized that I wasn't doing a good enough job of just like taking a moment to sit with those feelings, and also reaching out to friends and maintaining those connections and doing it proactively. And I think that it's easy for for some of us who may be home and maybe we have kids and obligations and families here, to kind of, it's like you're in work mode, then you're in dad or mom mode, then you're in teacher mode, you're in all these modes, but you're not in you mode. You're not necessarily taking the time to focus on yourself. And like that was a really good learning for me to go through, to remind myself of that. So I'm glad you reinforced that as well, because I imagine most viewers here are struggling with that balance. And I think it's really important to just reaffirm every opportunity we get. Make time for yourself to help yourself through this, because this is not a normal situation. This is a really stressful, anxiety-inducing, just difficult situation. And so I think that we have to be looking for the signals in ourselves, in those cues, when we really need to make sure that we're addressing that.
Yeah, and I would just say, Lars, real quick, like it goes back to the old adage, like, treat yourself as you would treat your best friend.
Yeah.
Super hard, but give it a shot, because you are in fact your best friend.
Yeah.
You really are. Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's really important on that is like, don't also, everybody is, whether if you're on social media, people are on Twitter, people on different platforms. Again, some people are like, they have an environment where they can get stuff done, and they're learning a language, or like doing some cool thing, or they're, eating well, or prioritizing fitness. Great for them. Don't compare yourself to them. Like if you wake up every day and you're accepting of yourself in that moment, in that day, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also a trap that's easy to fall into.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because, what do they say? Comparison is the thief of all joy.
Yeah.
I think we could use as much joy as we possibly can find and bring in and internalize. So, just be you. I mean, don't be me, don't be you.
Yeah.
Ours, like, be Joni, be Seth.
One of the things that it's interesting about this experience is I think, again, for those of us that do have the privilege of being able to shelter in place, again, most of us haven't gone through this level of isolation in our lives, for the most part. And I think that in a lot of the conversations I've had, there are things that people are learning about themselves through this experience. And I'm curious for you, what comes to mind? What things have you, learned about Claude as you've been, sheltering in place?
I have learned, as I've relearned many times in my life, that if I don't have some kind of downtime, and if that downtime means just in the shower, that's okay. But I need time to absolutely not be thinking about anything. I really do. I'm a person that, as I've already mentioned, it's more of a challenge for me to put the oxygen mask on myself. So if I'm not taking that, that time out for Claude, and again, could be 10 minutes, I like suffocate in a way. And that's not pretty. It's really not pretty. And when that happens, I have nasty habits just like anyone else. I can get to, a cynical place or a judgmental place. And that's just not the Claude I want to be. So me taking time out, putting on some Cure, putting on my music, you and I've caught up on music, or just doing something that is going to help me remind myself, like, I am here. I am here. I'm not here for everyone and not Claude. I'm here for everyone and Claude.
Yeah. And as I know we're both fans of The Cure, are there any, what song has been your song of the moment? Any that you've been playing more than others?
The album Fascination Street. I mean,
yeah.
Say No More. I think that would be it. But I had the Clash on today, so.
The Clash is, I've been going to a lot of older school punk as well. So I want to get one last question for you, Claude, and then I want to bring James back for Q&A. I know a lot of people that are watching this now are chief people officers, they're people leaders. What advice do you have for your peers and contemporaries that are leading their organizations through this?
So this is the time. Like, this is the time to step up. There is not going to be an invitation this is the time to lead with heart, lead with humanity, be the Sherpa and the shepherd of the company and of the culture. Be a transparent person that leads with clarity and non-judgment, holds space for people. But there is no other time other than this time, because our people need us. Our people are looking to us. And so I would say lean in, and where you need support, certainly ask for support.